Hi, welcome to Salesforce Lightning Demo. Are the topics that we actually are going to do in the Salesforce complete curriculum. We have first section with the introduction, the second section with the prerequisites, third section with all the basic things, fourth with adding styling in Salesforce Lightning, with working the server call and the Apex classes, and then start the advanced topics, which you can see the events and working with the dynamic functionalities and everything. For today's session, we are going to work with Salesforce Lightning introduction, how to create our very first component and add styling to the same thing. So basically, whenever we work with Salesforce Lightning, it is a component-based framework that helps you to create applications for both mobile and desktop devices. It consists of two things specifically, component and add-on. Component is the smallest unit of your application that's used for creating your any kind of programming requirement. Let's say you want to create a registration form, you want to create a search box, or from smallest to the biggest requirements, all of your requirements, you have to create a component. In Lightning, components are of two types here. In 2014, when Lightning was introduced with Aura components and like some core language over here in JavaScript. Okay, so the basic core languages are used in Aura. Okay, all the basic concepts were used at that time. But now in 2019, after 5 years, when there were so many new things which has been introduced in the market, like JavaScript only has been introduced with 4 new versions. So ECMAScript 5 was there at that time. Now ECMAScript 6, 7, 8, 9. So ECMAScript is basically the other name you can say for JavaScript, and then there are versions for the same 6, 7, 8, 9 that has been introduced. Other than that, there are so many new concepts that's been added in the market. Previously, we used to work with DOM structure. You might have heard about DOM structure for HTML, JavaScript. Now it has been replaced, not exactly replaced, I would say, like it has been updated to Shadow DOM. This way, in last 5 years, there's been so many new things that has been introduced in market. So Salesforce also thought of implementing all of these things. So rather than updating Aura component, what did they do in 2019? They brought Lightning Web Components. Okay, so these are the two ways we are having. Today we are going to talk about Aura component in our session. The other thing that we have is App Builder. App Builder normally helps you to create applications, and it's just like the page layout in your classic admin and Lightning admin thing. So page layout helps you to drag and drop the fields here and there, buttons and sections. Okay, your App Builder helps you to customize your components. Where exactly you want to put the component, you can just drag it and drop it anywhere you want. You can create record pages, you can create home pages and app pages with the help of Apple. The next thing that we need to understand is the difference between the classic programming and the Lightning programming. If you have a background with classic programming, then you already know that we work with front-end programming languages, Visual Force, Apex, database languages, and we work with server-side programming there with the MVC. If by chance you are new, let's understand it in detail. Whenever we work with Salesforce Classic programming, we have Visual Force as the front-end programming language. This language helps you to manage the UI in Classic. Whatever you can see that can be programmed with the help of Visual. The other thing that we have is the back-end programming language, the back-end functionality. Like let's say you have created a form with the help of Visual Force that having buttons, and now if you interact with the page as a user, you click the button, you add some data. Whatever functionality is going to work, that's going to come from the backend. The backend functionality work in this case. So for that we use Apex. So Apex is basically a sister language to Java. That's kind of a server-side programming language. So as your Salesforce Classic model, it's also based on server-side programming. And here we have 3 languages that help you to communicate with the database: SOQL, SOSL, and DL. One is the query language, one is the search language, and one is manipulation language, where one helps you to fetch the data, one helps you to search, and the other one helps you to create, do some changes in your data, maybe inserting new data, deleting the old one, and update it. This is like a difference point, static reports and dashboards that we will discuss in our next slide. So when we work with Salesforce Lightning, one thing you need to understand, if you have worked as a Salesforce admin, then you know that working with the classic experience and the lightning experience is almost same. Like I would count it as 90% same. But when you are working with the programming in both the experiences, the programming is 90% different. So here the front-end language has been changed to Salesforce Lightning Design System. Here your back-end language is JavaScript. The core language is JavaScript. And as JavaScript supports your client-side programming, that is the reason why Salesforce Lightning is also based on client-side programming model. Here, the only part when we are going to use the database language is the only time we are going to use the database language or the Apex programming languages. Okay, like as you can see in third point, Apex plus SOQL, whenever you want to work with your database. At that point of time, we have to eventually go for Apex programming, because for that thing we need server-side programming language. For communicating with the database, even from Lightning, we will be needing a server-side programming language. This is the point where Salesforce Lightning fails to achieve the criteria because it's based on client-side programming. So eventually we will be needing Apex plus SOQL, Apex plus CML, whatever kind of program you want to write. You can say this is the only 10% part of programming. I basically count it as 5%, when 5% the other things like triggers or batch, Apex and everything. Otherwise, this is the 5% part that is coming straight away from your Apex and SOQL included in the programming. And then here the architecture is event driven. Okay, so very first thing, where is it coming from and what exactly it is. So JavaScript is based on event driven programming. It means executing your codes with some event. Let's say you want to execute your code whenever any button is clicked, or you want to execute your code whenever there is loading of page or unloading of page or change of data. So in all these cases, clicking of button, loading of page, unloading of page and change of data, these are events. And when one such event occurs and you want to execute some code accordingly, that's called event driven. This is the place from where the architecture of Salesforce Lightning is coming. It's following the event driven architecture. Then this Einstein analytics. So this point is the comparative point as compared to Classic. When we work with Classic, I was going to talk about it. In this thing, we are going to talk about the Classic changes. So whatever 10% part is changed in that case, we can count our reports and dashboards. In your Classic, it's totally, let's say, static reports and dashboards. But in Lightning, we have a new feature, Einstein Analytics, that can help you to work with the dynamic one. So these are the few differences. Once you learn the Salesforce Lite, what are the opportunities you are going to get? You can apply for any kind of Salesforce Lightning developer job. Okay, if you go for Aura, these days they are specifically asking whether you know the Aura or you know Lightning web components are code. So that thing you have to mention, and you have to be very precise about that thing. Okay, while just looking for a job as a Lightning developer, whether they are going for Aura or web. Here certifications are not exactly available for your Aura components or web components, but we have this JavaScript developer 1 certification that's introduced like recently, exactly 1 month ago. For today, we are going to work with creating our first component for the programming, and then we are going for adding some styling to it with the help of Salesforce Lightning Design System. So let's go for this one. So I'm going to open this developer console and copy the link. Always try to copy it in a new tab rather than working with it with 2 windows. Let's go to the top. So from top here, we are going to create a new Lightning component. Let's call it a name with demo 26. Here we have these optional features that we will be checking only when we want to use our Lightning component at some specific places. That okay, when we at Lightning pages, I want to use this component that I'm going to create on record page. I want to create. So it's optional, and as I don't want to use my component yet anywhere, so I'm not going to click any one of it and submit it. So this is just a definition page. You can remove it, and this is the main place where we are going to write it. So this is Aura component. That is the reason why we have this root tag here. It is a tag based language again. So here this is the starting tag and this is the ending tag. You can see this difference. This backslash represents the ending. Here we have 8 resources which are used for specific reasons, like component resource. The very first resource that's being opened over here take cares of your front end. Similarly, your second resource take cares of your back end. I would say this is the only thing you need to know right now. And if you want to compare it with Classic, yes, you can compare your component with your visual post. That in terms of front end and back end, your front end is going to be managed in your component resource, and your back end is going to be managed in this controller, which is basically a client side controller where we can write Java's functions. So that's the back end. And yes, you can compare it with. Now we want to create a very basic component that's going to have a heading, few inputs, and a button. Okay, so here we can use HTML. For proving that, I'm going to use this paragraph tag from HTML. This is the tag from HTML that helps you to print the things as it is. Okay, so let's say I want to work, you have to put it within it. So let's say registration. Then I will be adding few inputs here. Whenever we work with Salesforce Lightning, the tags are very simple. Input tags can be simply added with the tag Lightning input, and all you need to do is give it a label. Label will be the name that you want to represent on your front end. So let's call it first name, and Lightning input is basically a single tag where you get a simple put. Then we have this Lightning input again for last name. And let's use the same for email. Here, if you want to work with the drop down, and in this session, I'm actually going to show you the resources as well, because in beginning, it's impossible for us to remember all the tags. So we will be taking reference to the component library side by side, so that if we want to work with the variety, we can just simply take the reference to the component resource rather than searching on the web or something. Right now, I'm using the tags directly without showing you any reference. So the next tag that I'm going to use is Lightning Select. That helps us to work with the drop down list. Okay, giving it a label. Let's say H. Lightning Select is a tag that's basically working with starting and ending tag both, and within it, to give the option value, you have this tag option value. I can simply copy the same option value 2-3 times. And here we have to give some kind of unique item. So it's on you what you want to give. Here I'm giving the values that I want to represent. Let's say age greater than 18 and 18 and less than 18. Then comes the turn of a button. Let's add a button here, Lightning button. Giving it a name, submit. And here we go. So control plus S save. Now we are ready with 4 inputs and a button and a heading for now. That's just the structure. To see the preview of this component, we have 2 ways. Either we can just simply go to App Builder and add this component there and see the final preview. Other way is, actually that's a long process, so we should definitely go for other process. So other way is that we just create a new application here from File, New, and Lightning application. This application is used whenever you want to create any external applications. Here, all you need to do is just call your component with the same syntax that I'm going to write. This application is a plain application, having no styling. Tell it that, okay, we want our Salesforce Lightning UI. You have to mention extends equals to force colon SLDs. It basically is extending to the Salesforce Lightning design system side. So here we have this preview button that's available for only application. You just click on it. So here we go with few inputs here. Now let's say I want to add some styling into it. So for that we have 2 ways. Either I can use CSS from within the resource number 4, style resource, and here I can use any level of cascading style sheet, CSS. Okay. Or other way is I use Salesforce Lightning design system over here. So first of all, let me give you introduction of Salesforce Lightning design system. It's basically a language that can be used for styling here, and the tags over there are nothing but div classes from HTML. If you have heard about divisions that we create in HTML, maybe header division, footer division to apply styling accordingly. So same thing. It's basically a div class with a name, and the names having the functionality. So let me give you overview about this. I'm going to search for Salesforce Lightning design system directly and open the very first link and let's just use, let's say I want something for my sizing. Okay, sizing of the inputs. So I'm searching it directly. The only thing here that you need to do is know how to search. Rest of the things are the same. So I'm going to show you a tag. Just forget about what it is about. This is basically the SLDS tag. This tag says a div class is there with a name. Okay, SLDS size 1 of. So this is a tag basically that divides your page into half. Okay, size half. Here it starts with SLDS. Then there is a property. Okay, and then there is a value. Property is size and value is 1 of that. Okay, size is the property and I want my size to be half of the page. So that's why 1 of. So I'm going to use this tag to reduce the input size, the length, because right now it's just structure. To make it look good, we have to add the styling for sure. So I'm going to add some styling over here, write it like their class, and I don't want half of it. I want, let's say, 1 of 4 would do just fine. You can divide your page into any equation. Okay, you can divide it into 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 12. So I'm going for 4, 1 or 4. And put this ending tag where you want your styling to end. So I want it to be applied on all the inputs. On buttons it will not be applied. So it doesn't matter even if I put it with it. Okay, now it's small. Okay, more than we expected. So let's try doing 3 of 8. At least this part should be required. Yeah, now it's looking better. Now I want this heading to look good. For that, I'm gonna make it header. Let's search for some tags. I want to make it header. I want to make it large, and I want it to be aligned in the center. So let's search for the header tag. Just search for page headers. And why I'm telling you this thing, here we have thousands of tags. Impossible to remember any of it in beginning. You should always know how to search. So this is the tag that I need to use. Page header. That's actually the root tag here. I'm putting it here and ending it exactly after this. So if you see the output this time, just watch over here. Got some margin top, left, bottom automatically. That's good. The next thing I want to make this heading a bit bigger. So I'll go for text for this thing. Okay. Text sizing will become within the text option. And yes, you need to remember at least this thing. If you are not going to remember the tags, you have to remember the names. That okay, if I want my input to be small, large or anything, what tag I should use, what keyword I need to search. Okay, so this text is base text. This is a small text and I want to make it large. So this is what I will be needing. Let me just copy it straight away. And one more thing over here, you can like divide or differentiate your like property and the value with underscore as well that they have done here. And you can also use double dash that I have used. So it's on you how you want to use it. At some places equals to is always also used. I'm going to refresh my page. Yes, our heading is looking better now. Now I want to align it to center. For that, you can just write it directly. SLDS. Okay, it's in center now. So your absolute center tag doesn't work with the inputs. It works with the text. Like if you will apply it for it, it's going to show you somewhere here. Now for this thing, what we will do rather than finding any solution for this in Salesforce Lightning Design System, I am going to use this style resource and test how exactly it works. So here we have this. Basically, this is a keyword that points out to any particular class, right? So I'm going to write over this dot and the name of class on which I want to apply the styling. So for that thing, I have to copy the name from here of any class on which you want to add styling. Like I wanted to add styling on this text and I found that it is within this class. And as I told you in beginning with the definition that div class is nothing but SLDS is nothing but a div class with a name and the name having functionality. So yes, I can use this name from here. So I'm going to copy this, apply it over here. If you don't understand it now in session, we are actually going to cover the meaning of style, how to use style, what are the other options and everything. For now, I'm just targeting one tag and giving it some margin left, saying 400 pixels, and now our component is looking much better, and this is what we want. So I would say this is all for the programming part. Okay, then comes the project. See, projects can be covered according to your requirement, but I have still mentioned some simple projects over here. That's basically like one is healthcare and one is the university portal. These are like default two projects which are added over here, and we do not need any setup here that you already know, as you might have worked with Salesforce admin. We will be working with the Salesforce or only. You will be provided the documentation, resources, resumes, and guidance and everything. If you have any doubts or anything, you can just contact the team and contact me through the team anytime you want.